I think it was a great man who once said, "Get your ass to Mars." Hey, what's up, bookworms? You guys want to go to Mars quickly? Well, that's great, because today we're going to be doing a rapid review, guys, for John Carter of Mars, Barsoom #1. This is A Princess of Mars. Now, John Carter of Mars, what this has been commonly known as over the years, but Barsoom is the series by Edgar Burroughs. And A Princess of Mars is book #1. Now, this is one of the most influential stories in sci-fi history, guys. It was written and released in All World magazine in 1912. And yeah, this is a story that I think is just absolutely integral to what we have come to know as science fiction. It all happened right there in 1912 by Mr. Edgar Rice Burroughs, more commonly known for Tarzan. But obviously, John Carter of Mars is a huge, huge influence, and we'll talk about that along the way. Now, this was my second reading. I read it for the first time when I was 15 years old, so did it stick the landing on a reread? Well, we will talk about it, guys. We're going to start with what is this book about. Now, John Carter, a Civil War veteran in search of mysteries of some caves in Arizona, finds himself somehow transported to Mars. There he's transported by the Green Men of Thark. Held captive with him is the beautiful Princess of Helium, Dejah Thoris. But due to the difference in gravity on Barsoom, Carter finds himself developing unique abilities. Thrust into the middle of a conflict between warring nations, John Carter must not only fight for his freedom, but save the entire planet from an unforeseeable catastrophe. And guys, that leads us all the way back to 1912. This is A Princess of Mars. Now, guys, with the rapid reviews, what we do here is we do what I like. That's what we're going to start with, guys. What I like. Now, this writing just feels timeless, guys. And what I mean by this is you go back and you read like Robert E. Howard or J.R.R. Tolkien or H.P. Lovecraft, and stories are 100 years old or so, or close to it, and you can tell they were written in a different time with the way that the author speaks. You can just tell the writing is very, very different. Clearly, it has evolved over time. This one feels a little more modern. Now, I'm not saying this feels like something you'd read today, but I say, like when I read, what was it? Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. It felt a lot like that. Like this could almost be something that was written in like the 60s. So this guy's writing about 50 years ahead of his time, in my opinion. That's how I really feel about it. But just the writing just feels timeless. It doesn't ever feel like, oh yeah, wow, this is ye olde writing here. This really does feel like something fresh, and it's incredible. It's incredible when you realize when this was actually written and where the world was at the time. And what I mean by that is one of the big ones here, guys, is his portrayal of women is so different than what you would expect for something this old. And obviously in this genre where, sci-fi, women didn't have a large role in 1912. They really did not. And what he is able to do with the character of Dejah Thoris is make a character that's not quite a damsel in distress. She's not like she's not like Red Sonja or something. But she's very, very smart. She's intelligent. She has a sharp tongue. She's a scientist, and she saves John Carter's ass quite a few times. And I think that makes her just such a unique character, and obviously one of the most influential sci-fi females of all time. You ever hear of Princess Leia? Yeah, up to and including Gold Bikini, guys. This was the influence. Such an influential character. Dejah actually had like her own spin-off comic for a long time after this. So just an incredible, incredible heroine in his stories. And it was so ahead of its time, like I said. The action in this, guys, is just pure swashbuckling fun. Look, guys, this came out in a pulp magazine. You're going to have a great time. You're going to have a blast. It's going to be full-on adventure. You're going to be enjoying what you're doing here. And I had a great ride with it this time and the first time. But it isn't just mindless fun. I heard someone actually recently kind of describe it as sometimes it's fun to just kind of turn your brain off. I don't think it's quite there, guys. This isn't like you're not reading like a 5th grade level here. I think kids could probably enjoy this, but it's still got a lot of intelligence to it. It has a lot of themes, themes of friendship. And a big one is understanding and relating to those who look and talk differently than us, different cultures. That's, again, something that was very forward-thinking at the time. And, this John Carter being a Civil War veteran, that's obviously something he's still probably battling with internally. I think it's just such a heavy theme in this book that doesn't get enough run. A lot of people don't talk about it. But, yeah, and also the romance, guys. I think the romance is done well enough. It's kind of incredible that this book being sub 200 pages, that he's actually able to make you be interested in this romance. You want to see these two kids get together. It's kind of well earned, which is incredible for the short amount of space he has. I said very much like a Robert E. Howard in that Robert E. Howard could pack more, in 25 pages as some modern fantasy authors can pack in 500. I kind of feel like that here. He's able to get a romance going with such a short, just very few interactions really with these characters, and you're buying it. You're believing that they're gaga for each other. That's an impressive talent for this many pages here. And again, guys, anytime you got an animal companion, you got my attention. And Woola is one of my favorite. I feel terrible about leaving Woola off of my animal companions list. Pretty much the most faithful hound that anyone could ask for. And like Deja, Woola does save John's ass more times than I can count. So great start to everything here in this series, and I think you'll find plenty of like there. Let's talk about what I didn't like. Now, this is one of those kind of things where it's hard to look at this through a modern lens, because you look at something like the world building. It's not that vast. I mean, he does do more than you would expect for the short amount of pages, but this is an extremely short story. Now, however, this is book one, but there are several John Carter stories, and there are several on Barsoom that split off from John Carter. So this is obviously the tip of the iceberg here. So I'm not saying you don't get those answers. I'm just saying in this book, you're not going to get the crazy sprawling world outside of just Zidanga and Helium and stuff like that. But even that, I mean, a big thing with that is I wish I got to know more about Helium's ruling class. I wish I got to know more about Zidanga's, who rules there and what they do. You get those characters, but you get them very, very briefly. I'd like to know more about them. So that's kind of one of those things I think that you just got to understand. This is a pulp adventure. You're not going to get that stuff, at least not in this book. And it's something I think is hard for modern fantasy readers to kind of wrap their head around, fantasy sci-fi. Also, the explanation of how he got to Barsoom is kind of lacking. It leaves a lot up to your interpretation. And if you kind of go with what he's saying, that you might kind of be like, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But again, guys, this is about the adventure, and it's about the adventure that takes place on Mars. So if you're going to get stuck on stuff like that, yeah, it might not be the series for you guys. He's not going to sit here and show you how the sausage is made on everything. Again, that's just the way that storytelling was. Because you remember, these were released serialized in pulp magazines at the time. They weren't spending a lot of time on word count and making sure they explained all these things to you. So that might be tough for you to get into. It did kind of just bug me a little bit, but again, that's just the modern reader in me, like I said. And again, guys, this cliffhanger is just mean. I mean, it's just flat out cruel where this book is, and you're going to be stretching for book number 2 immediately. So if that's something that bothers you, it does have a closed end of the story, but it does have a humongous cliffhanger that makes you want to read more. So I call that a hook. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, it was one of those things. It's like, really? Come on, man. As for my final thoughts, guys, this is an absolute classic, and if you are a science fiction fan, you must read it. I don't think that you should. I think you must. I think you have to. I think it goes Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, then it goes H.G. Wells, and then it goes, boom, Barsoom. This is kind of the birth of sci-fi here, guys. This is really, really important stuff. You think about the influence for this. Star Wars, Dune, Superman, Avatar. You wouldn't have any of these things without John Carter of Mars doing it first. And it's really, really kind of... You think about some of the sci-fi giants out there. Arthur C. Clarke, Ray Bradbury, Carl Sagan. They all list this as a primary influence for them having an interest in science fiction and outer space. I mean, that's heavy stuff, because they read it as a child. And numerous times you'll be reading this and you'll be like, oh, so that's where George Lucas got from. Or, oh, man, I can see Frank Herbert definitely read this when he was a kid. It has all those things that will make you realize, yeah, this really is the origin for a lot of those stories that I have come to know and love. And look, guys, it's low commitment, and it is very satisfying, and you're going to have a blast, and you're going to want to read more, because it's going to leave you very hungry, especially with that cliffhanger ending. And guys, I can't wait to read more Edgar Rice Burroughs. I have read Gods of Mars immediately after this, and I do plan to try to get into some Tarzan sometime soon. So guys, that was A Princess of Mars, a book I think is highly underrated and undervalued by modern times. And I think that not only should you read that, you should also watch John Carter on Disney Plus if you got it, because that is a fantastic movie and an incredible adaptation. And yeah, it's way better than the guys in the legacy that it has. So that is all I got, guys, for another episode of Rapid Review. So drop in the comments. Let me know if you have read A Princess of Mars or if you have any interest to, and I will talk to you guys there.